Hey guys, Taki here. AYANEO is back at it again with a new product, and while this probably isn't the first time you've seen this design since they've used it so many times, it is the first time when a product from this line was super relevant at launch. Unlike the original AYANEO Air models that launched with Ryzen 5000 series processors in the Ryzen 6000 series launch window, or the AYANEO Air Plus that launched with a Ryzen 6000 series processor right before Phoenix hit the market, this guy is using current tech with no processor upgrades for at least 5 more months. Whether or not you should buy one in the hyper-competitive market that we find ourselves in now in the summer of 2023 is an entirely different question. I recently did a YouTube short on this, and I don't think it's any secret that this product line is nuts. I don't have every model that they've made, but let's do a quick overview of what they have. The first model was the AYANEO Air with the 5560U. They made a slightly thicker model with a better processor and a bigger battery with the AYANEO Air Pro. After that, they ditched the OLED screen for an IPS one and upgraded to a Ryzen 6800U processor. This one also has a bigger battery and a better fan. I personally think that this model is the best of the entire line so far because it's still small, but it doesn't have a lot of drawbacks. There are 3 other models that use this shell, but I've only taken a look at the Intel version on this channel. I have not seen any of the cheaper AMD versions that they made. Beyond those, we also have the Pocket Air. This one is slightly different than all the others because the shell is different and it uses Android. I'm still waiting for this one to release so I can review it. Out of all of those models, this is the one that is closest to our new AYANEO Air 1S model. They share the same size fan, and the same size battery. So we're gonna look at this as an upgrade over the AYANEO Air Pro and see how it stacks up. Side by side, we have the specs of both models. I'm not gonna go over everything here because we really only care about the processors. My new model has double the RAM of the old one, but that's not really that significant. Outside of the processor change, we have a sizable bump to our maximum supported TDP. That might be a moot point because we still have the same battery on this, and gunning 25 watts on battery power is an easy way to set a battery drain speedrun record. Now we're going to take a look at some benchmarks, and I just want to point out that these results are not going to be apples to apples to other platforms because AYA forces a 2-watt TDP boost in their software. Both of these devices do the same thing, so this is an apples to apples comparison between the two of them. So this is 10 watt with the Geekbench 5 CPU test. We have a huge boost in single core performance going from the Pro to the 1S, but oddly enough, the Pro has a slightly higher multi-core score. After that, I tested the max TDP on both platforms, so this is 18 watt on the Pro and 25 watt on the 1S. As you can see, there is a huge difference both in single core performance and multi-core performance. But we all know that GPU performance is more important, so I also ran the TimeSpy benchmark to get more data. At 10 watt TDP, we got a score of 929 on the Pro with a graphics score of 820. On the 1S, our overall score goes up largely thanks to our score of 1011 for graphics. I then tested the max TDP on both platforms, and the 1S leaves the Pro in the dust when it comes to graphics. We more than doubled the graphics score and the overall score with this test, but our TDP isn't equal right now. I lowered the 1S to 15 watt TDP, and it still dominates the Pro at 18 watt. The funniest thing is that we almost have a better graphics score at 10 watt TDP on the 1S. So what's the takeaway from all of this? This chip is much better for a product of this size where you have to work around design constraints compared to the 5825U from last year. It should be able to do everything that the old version can do with less power and better battery life. It also has a way higher performance ceiling in tethered situations. Before we move on, I want to open these up because they claim that this new one is using a new fan and a new cooling module, and I want to see how they were able to cool 7 to 9 additional watts of power. So I just got both of them opened up, and I'm surprised to see that everything almost looks exactly the same. The only thing that I'm seeing is that the center of this fan is slightly smaller than the Pro. So that means that our fan model should be different, but we need to disassemble this a bit further to see. After doing that, my table is kind of a mess right now, but I have disassembled this enough to see the important stuff that we need to talk about. Our old fan is a 5 volt, 0.5 amp fan, and the original heat pipe was just a single copper pipe over the middle of the processor. On the 1S, we have a 5 volt, 0.4 amp fan. The shell is the same, but it is possible that the blades are a little longer. They said that this one is better for cooling compared to the old one, but I haven't tested that yet. The bigger change is probably with the heatsink though. This one has 2 pipes covering almost the entire processor as well as the RAM chips by the look of things. But yeah, that's what we're working with the new 1S. And just in case you're wondering, both of these do use Cyber Thunder drives, so I didn't get, like a special reviewer version this time around with a better performance drive. I just got the Cyber Thunder one, which I'm fine with. Beyond the increase in power, the real big change for this device is in software. So let's quickly do an overview of this because I think the best part about this product or this product line is the software right now. It's really good. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise if you've seen reviews on this or you've used an Aya device, but the Aya Space 1.0 software was not great. There were a lot of options that were kind of confusing, like the fan icon making it seem like you were changing fan speeds when you were actually just changing the CPU performance profile. Basically, all that stuff is much better now. After being frustrated on my own with how confusing some of this stuff was, I offered to help with localization, but they never took me up on the offer until they started working on this update. I didn't know how big this update was when I agreed to help, but the localization document was 70 pages long and it took hours to go through just to give you an idea. There are still some things that weren't part of that document that are now written in Chinglish in the current version that I have, but I would say 95% of this software makes perfect sense now and almost nothing is ambiguous like it was before. They could still use some tooltips in some areas, but that would be a monster task that I don't think I'm up for. So we're going to do a deep dive into this right now, and I gotta say this software is pretty awesome. I think this is a lot better than any other handheld software that you're going to find on any competing platform at this point, including the Ally. And that's from a person that uses Ally daily. So right now we're on the home screen and these are all of the games that I've installed and played over the last couple of days. If you can't tell, I'm kind of on a zombie kick right now. You'll see that as I scroll through these titles, the box art will expand for the selected title and it will say some info like the time played, but that doesn't work right now. I've already played like 6 hours of Subnautica on this and it's not accounted for here, so that's probably a bug that they're already aware of. But these are all of the games that the system automatically added to the UI when I installed this update. Here's another way to organize our games. This is a better layout if you have a larger collection of games and it can be customized. So for example, if I just press this button here, you'll see that this is in grid mode and I have it sorted by A to Z, but they also have a list mode option that isn't working right now. I personally like changing this layout to 4 columns because I think it looks better on this device and the box art for each title isn't that small. Now I have to be honest with you, I've never used Aya Space to launch any of the games that I've used on their devices, but I could see myself using this as a front end, especially if this gets expanded functionality out into emulation. That would be awesome. Now, if there's a game that you wanted that wasn't already here, you could press this button here, and then you'll go into the file management section. From here, you can manually add the directory of the game or the games that you want the system to pull. For example, I could go in here and choose a directory that had a lot of executable game files, and the system will pull the entire directory for exe files that you can then sort through and find the one that you want to add. I haven't needed to do that on this device because I found that the main system already added every game that I installed on my device. If the system is confused or can't say for sure if a game is a game, it will add it to this separate section, and then you can go in and select the game files that should be in your library. For example, this is a game file, but I already have it added, so I can just ignore it. One of the cool things about this update is that everything is touch-based. Like the old Aya Space software could only be used by a controller, and it was kind of crap because sometimes you'd want an option that was all the way over in the corner, and then you'd have to like mess around with the selection to get over there. Now pretty much everything here can be activated with touch, and if it can't, then it's probably not implemented yet. It's way better than it was for the last couple of years. I really like this. What I'm concerned about are the settings. So let's go over the settings now, and you'll see that there are a lot of things here, but only some of them are ones that I want to go over. First of all, we're going to go into the performance section. Here, you now have the ability to make profiles and you can customize a ton of stuff. So I usually find myself in the AAA game profile, and here we have a few important options that we did not have before. We can set an FPS limit, a TDP limit, a power profile, and a fan profile. There are also more advanced settings for CPU and GPU lock settings if you really want to min-max your device. But let's say, for example, that I really want to play some Super Nintendo and the retro game setting is too high for me. I can press the new preset button and then set a label to SNES. I'm going to change the TDP to 7 watt because that will give me more than enough for the entire Super Nintendo library, and I'm going to change the power profile to saving. Under fan config, I'm going to select the software control, and I'm going to go in and set the fan profile to mute since 7 watt won't generate that much heat. After that, I'm ready to go. Now I have a Super Nintendo game loaded, and you can see that I'm using the Super Nintendo profile that I just created. It's that easy. This brings me right back to the GPD Win 2 because I used to make profiles like this for all kinds of stuff, so I really like this. But that's it for the performance section. Let's continue. Under the monitor section, they have a performance overlay that you can use. It conflicts with the one that I want to use, so I'm not going to enable it right now. But if you ever wanted to use those layouts that I use in my videos, they have a really nice one that covers the top half of the screen with all of the useful data that you need, and you don't need to worry about anything. I just like my style better. We are going to skip over a lot of sections here because they aren't that impactful, and we'll just go over to the controller section. There are a lot of options here, and they are way easier to use than they were before. A lot of this stuff was locked behind gaudy 3D animations that were really slow and clunky. Now you can change any kind of sensitivity setting or macro mapping that you want right in this location. Keep it simple. Now I also hear from some people that Aya leaves people behind in terms of support when they make new products, but this entire system that I just covered is compatible with the original AYANEO model. Back to the 1S to round this out. We have a different game loaded up, and we can finish off with the rest of the options that we have in our new mini window. There are a lot of things here that will probably make it so you never need to go into the main settings window in the full app. This is really big for things like RGB controls and button options. Those options were never easy to get to. But yeah, that's enough for the software. Hopefully it comes across just how significant this improvement was. Now we're ready for some game testing. As I said, I've been using this for the last few days or so, and in total, I probably have about 10 or 15 hours of gameplay on the device, which is really difficult to do with my schedule. I still have a lot of stuff that I want to test on this device to try and figure out where it excels the best or where I would use it, but I just wanted to show some of the games that I've been playing on it. One thing that I decided in my short time is the TDP range that I favor. Even though this device supports up to 25 watt TDP, I will very rarely ever use the device that high because I would need to be tethered to a wall for that, and I have better handhelds for those kinds of situations. I like using this device around 15 watt TDP because everything is better. The fan works better without making a lot of noise, the skin temperature of the device is better both on the screen and in the grips, and that translates into a more comfortable gaming experience. I talked about this in my first AYANEO Air video from last year, but this screen is amazing. There are very few screens on the market that can match this one, and I still think that the Air models with the OLED panel may make your games look the best they ever have. I've been playing a lot of games that have punchy, saturated graphics, and they look great on this screen. You've been watching footage of Subnautica, which sucked me in for 6 hours solely due to how vibrant and awesome the game looks on this screen. Another game that also looks great is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I grabbed this one on a recent Steam sale to finish out my Borderlands series collection, and it runs great at 15 watt TDP.
Inside every hero is a skeleton that wants to be free.
A single villager remains alive in the carnage. But she looks bad, baby. She looks like she's about to die.
Might as well save her peasant ass.
Thank you for saving my peasant ass, stranger. How can I ever repay you?
Assassin's Creed Valhalla has a lot of bad reviews on Steam, but I grabbed this one during the Steam sale, and it runs great on this. No crashes whatsoever, and it also runs great at 15 watt TDP. I also installed a lot of dark games on my 1S due to the fact that it has an OLED panel, but I wanted one with a big dynamic range, and Dying Daylight runs and looks great on this panel. So that's going to wrap up things on this first look. So far, I like this device, but I still need more time on it. If I know Aya, then my old favorite, the Air Plus, is probably going to get a refresh too, and if that happens, it will be hard to pick between the two of them. But I will just say, keep an eye out for my video on the Geek 1S, because I'll be giving away that in the video that I do on it. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see another, take a look at my video on the Orange Pi 03. Happy gaming, everyone. Taki out.